I mean, if the only reason you come every week is to see that video, I will completely understand.
This is incredible. What up, folks? We got people here, right? There's people live in the chat. I said as long as we have 7 people, we're happy. I think we have at least 8. Welcome to the pilot episode of a brand new weekly live show we're doing called Internet Explorers. Stoked to be here, Josh.
Hello. Did we have a big week, Jess?
I don't know. I'd usually let Hurls be the one who gets to say the big weeks. It's every week is a big week if you're in crypto. I think the Seed Club Twitter account has been doing some Office Space quote tweets recently. It feels weirdly appropriate for a day where Solana's pumping, or a week where Solana's pumping, crypto's back, baby. Nothing like some gangster rap baseball bat and attacking the old machines of our oppression, the photocopiers.
Let's go. So yeah, we have a bunch of sweet topics lined up. You can see them on the left side there. But yeah, maybe before we jump into those, Jess, you kind of want to set the context on what we're doing here, why we're doing this.
Yeah, first of all, we have to say hello to Peace Node. Hello, Peace.
Right.
Hello. Good morning, folks.
We got the audio working. So I want us to take our visions back to a time when, there's a thing we're not going to talk about today. It's the big topic of the week, which may involve 3 letters and a curly-haired person who kind of has a similar haircut to Peace Node, but isn't Peace Node. I can confirm that. Back to when all that sort of started, and we're trying to figure out what should we do? What's going on next? And we were sitting in an Airbnb all around this TV, and Peace Node was just surfing the internet. And within 5 minutes of that conversation, everybody was enthralled in watching Peace Node's screen. And so we thought that might be like a really interesting, core mechanic to build a fun show around. So this is Internet Explorers. What you will see is the main screen here, which is Peace Node controlling. You'll see some topics on the side there that we may or may not get to. Who knows? I'm pretty sure it's going to be entertaining. The chat is live, so we can dive in, ask your questions, refer to any points that maybe we get right or wrong. And we're going to do this every week. And I think there's no shortage of awesome things that are happening in the crypto world. We love the idea of being able to bring attention to the things that we're most interested in, that our founders are most interested in, and hopefully people who are early adopters, enthusiasts of a more interesting internet want to be interested in. So crypto rooted, but we're going to talk about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, maybe before getting to the first topic, I guess just like, if you guys find anything cool throughout the week that you just want us to riff on, I guess, send it over. And then, I think lastly, this is very experimental. We did one very brief dry run, but are just, fully jumping into this. So if you have feedback or ideas, I think, we have ideas for some future segments and ways to make this more interesting. But if you have them as well, send them over. We just want this to be a fun place for us to all hang out every Friday.
Josh bought a pop filter for this, so he doesn't want it to be popping his P's and S's, and we appreciate the effort you've put into showing up here professionally, Josh.
Stepping up, leveling up my game. We're going live. Let's go. Let's jump in.
Right.
Yes, the first topic that I wanted to talk about was a new product that was dropped this week from Small Brain Games, which is a studio building on-chain games called DrawTech. Basically, it's a riff game where people color tiles on this infinitely growing shared canvas. But there are a few things that are pretty interesting about this. So how it works is you actually have to buy a tile to color on it, and the price for each tile fluctuates based on a linear VRGDA, which we'll talk about. All tile sales get distributed to tile holders based on how many tiles they're holding. Peace, I don't know if you want to navigate to
Yeah,
it.
we're the sole premise of this thing is that Peace is Peace, are you navigating? Are you with us?
Peace,
are you live?
I'm here. Do you not see my screen?
No,
Just,
that's an issue.
Twitter. We're just
on the Twitter. Yeah. See, he's doing fun stuff, and we didn't get to see it. Like,
at least we caught it. We caught it early. But anyways, I'll keep describing it. Peace will get there. But yeah, basically, like, if you own tiles as other people buy tiles because they want to draw on them, the price that they pay gets distributed to all tile holders. So, bunch of fun mechanics, really worthwhile game to check out. It's fully on chain, nice PWA, built on base, privy onboarding, kind of the whole like modern stack. But really wanted to talk about it. Yeah, that actually pretty well summarizes how the game mechanics work. But yeah, really wanted to bring it up because it touches on a few themes that we've been really interested in lately, and jamming on internally. So I think the first one, Jess, and maybe I'll send over to you to kind of jump into is the small brain games as a business organization. Like, what they do is they drop a new like autonomous game, basically it's like self-contained, perpetuating game every 6 weeks. And we've been very interested by this idea of like ephemeral experiences, or kind of just these attention capturing drops that are just kind of meant to exist for short periods of time. So maybe let's dive into why we think that's so interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting for two things. One, it's interesting because the mechanics of distributing value in a network is still, I think, probably the most interesting, space with a ton of room to still explore. Like, you see what happens when a draw tech figures out a mechanic and it just sort of proliferates everywhere. So I love the idea of the number of at-bats or attempts and sort of iterations you can get to if you have that sort of six week shipping schedule. And also like, I think what we see a lot of times is networks try to bake in the economics probably too early, and then instead of being in a position where they probably should just rip and replace it in the future because they've learned a whole lot from it, they just start to iterate on it and don't make the meaningful changes that are actually needed to facilitate what is hopefully an ongoing economic model. So I think that their base model of we're just going to do brand new ones every 6 weeks is a really great sort of wiping the slate clean, so you can come in with a new mechanic that is either iterating on what they've learned from the past few ones or just trying something brand new. We're obviously big fans of sort of ephemeral drops. And I think if you're at our demo day, you saw the world's largest, which is doing this in a very different way, but again, kind of allows us to start capturing attention, to launch into bigger audiences with your next thing, to have a bunch of swings at it. It feels a lot more like creating content on the internet, right? Like we went from, we're going to go build these big shows and big movies, and we're going to go put marketing dollars behind them, and everybody's going to watch them, to, let's just ship stuff. And if people capture attention, like every 10th video maybe goes viral, and we have a bigger audience. So I like that work structure, and also love like they're running at a new mechanic.
Yeah, I think it's been, we live in this like attention dominated world, right? And it's, somewhat easy to like get, attention in a moment of time for a short period of time, but, really like maintaining it and retaining it without just being kind of constantly novel is really hard, right? Like, there's just like so much competing for our attention. And I think we're kind of like naturally seeing that play out with friend tech almost, right? Like they had so much attention for a month, maybe 2 months, but the novelty has really seemed to wear off, and usage, transactions, etc., has kind of fallen off a cliff. But the really interesting thing is like, if it just stops working or shuts down today, or like interest completely dries up, like guess what? They made $20 million in protocol fees and provided people with great entertainment for a few months, which like sounds kind of successful. And this team behind it that people know, they built SteelCam before, they built some other things before. They could come out with a new product in 6 months and people are going to go crazy and flock to it. So I think it's just kind of this interesting emerging business model, kind of entertainment brand model almost, that like crypto uniquely enables.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy that there's like only one mischief. I think I mean, I guess there's a lot of people that use the similar mechanics, I guess, but there's only one mischief. I think we'll probably
But also
see
how like inefficient they're like you have to like buy boots or whatever for them to like actually capture that value. Like the amount of value they're probably leaving, or like the amount of like latent demand or like interest in what they're doing that they're
Okay.
probably just not capturing.
Is it easier to sell a bunch of red boots to a normie or an NFT?
I mean, boots
I
today.
think they're probably pretty similar, actually.
Yeah, maybe you're
It's
right.
very different.
Maybe you're right. Those boots are kind of wild.
Yeah, I think we
Nice.
got
Yeah.
yeah. No, just flagging that, you know, we've got a bunch of these fun tools like this, even a bit earlier stage, that are coming through Test Flight Club, because I saw the list of things that are coming up. So just gonna flag that if you're not on the list for Test Flight Club, the place where we use test flights before they're out in the wild and give founders meaningful feedback. It's a fun exchange. You should join that.
Yeah, it's good. The group's really popping off recently. It's awesome. Yeah, the second topic kind of around draw tech that I was interested in jumping into was this like emerging rev share meta that Jess, I've heard you talk about a few times. So maybe let's touch on that too.
Yeah, I mean, like I think Friendtech, Drawtech, Zora, Rabbit Hole, all of them are sort of, and many more, I think, are on the side, have this insight that transactions are sort of the core way people interact with the protocol, and that people are actually willing to pay fees for those transactions, especially if there's some utility, whether that's airdrop hunting or minting access, whatever, will actually drive that, and that there's actually, at scale, there's meaningful economic flow just through those transactions, and then splitting up those transactions and giving referral fees or minter fees, or in some cases, first minter fees to people as an incentive to kind of kickstart those sort of actions. Seems to be working, definitely in the thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars a day, maybe not quite millions yet, but I think it's, the business model of the internet is in many ways affiliates. If you just use that pretty broadly, whether that's actual ads or all the way to actual affiliate marketing, reasonable to say that similar dynamics will exist on chain. And I think actually you can probably do a whole lot more with it. And so, yeah, excited about this. I'm excited about it as a potential revenue model for networks. I think question marks around what sort of scale and size you need to be at. Like it's probably big but not huge works, tens of thousands of users. But yeah, there's real money flowing through these things, being split up automatically, regardless of where you are in the world. And I think it's a pretty exciting potential business model for consumer apps on chain. Yeah,
totally. It's so powerful, and I think it's actually kind of akin to what we saw that really like led the DeFi kind of hype cycle, like the farming and the APYs. Like that was probably like some early version of this, and consumer products are now recognizing the power of it, and a lot of the early stage teams that we're working with, like this is a core consideration and design space that they're actively looking at. So yeah, very very much think that I don't know if we're entering a bull cycle, but whatever, like a bunch of the things that we're going to be playing with over the next year are going to have this as a core part of it.
But especially, I think when we start to see more interactions between referrals and token rewards, because I think if you're getting a portion of the economic flow through a network, that's one thing. But then there's also, so you think about Zora, right? There's the Zora flow of people minting the 0.007% or 7 ETH, and you're splitting that fee up. But Zora, what if Zora had a token? What are the incentives that could be aligned with that? So I think that's a pretty fruitful area of exploration.
Totally. And then, yeah, the last point on DrawTech before we move on, I think it was like maybe a year ago that you and I were nerding out over VRGDAs and, their potential applications. And it's cool I think Arc Gobblers was the first implementation of it. And I think we thought that there would be many more, and we haven't seen many more. And DrawTech is using it. So yeah, what is it and why is it cool?
Is that variable rate gradual Dutch auction? Fuck, yeah. I read it before this and then I totally forgot what it is. Something like that. But basically it's if you look at something like Nouns that does an auction a day, there's a bunch of limitations with that, and that you might get spikes of demand and interest, and maybe it's capturing the maximum somebody's willing to pay on that specific day, but there's a bunch of everybody else who was on that list who was trying to bid, even if they bid just 0.1 ETH below, is missing out. And so the idea is that there's sort of the number of mints available is shifting based on demand, and there's sort of a target emission rate that the network's looking at. So this is sort of like an example of how are we taking in capital and distributing tokens. Trace us all the way back to like, how do we do fair launches? So I think it's super novel. Yes, the Art Gobblers and Goo was the first one. I don't think that went super well. I think like it was it sort of offends the most important rule, I think, which is keep it simple, stupid, or small brain for the win. But I think what you're seeing here is that it's actually being abstracted away behind a very natural user experience thing. You're wanting to pay for an X pixel, which probably doesn't matter for the most part until it probably really does matter. And now you have a mechanic that can actually capture that variable demand around the very random placement of pixels. So I think that's super interesting. And I haven't seen that feature in the wild yet, but I'm curious how the UX around that works. But again, just you give me like an on-chain vending machine that does something cool. I'm going to push those buttons and see what happens.
100%. Like if they didn't mention that they were using these, you'd have no idea, which is, I think, a core reason why it's great.
Like, why is the price different? Why do I not know the distribution?
It's like, well, you're hovering on like a tile and the price is dropping, and you're like, oh, what's happening here? And then someone buys it and it goes up. And you're like, okay, I don't know what's happening behind the scenes, but there's a game being played here and a number of strategies to be played here. So yeah, encourage people to check it out. It's cool. I think small brain games, don't know them. I think they're still pretty kind of small and under the radar, but excited to see what they keep pushing out. Okay, sweet. Let's move on to Solana. Have to. This is kind of we don't talk about Solana a lot, but this is great. So yeah, obviously, I guess, quick hit, like it was breakpoint this week, token pump. Twitter was, very happy and very mad as it always is. I think like one of the big announcements that came out that I found pretty interesting was the announcement of a new validator software called Fire Dancer that's on testnet. And I think like really why it's interesting and, leads into the discussion I want to have is it like dramatically improves the latency and increases throughput speed to levels that, could easily support like many Twitters or, many visas being entirely on chain and operating on Solana. So obviously, still a ton of unknowns on how this is all going to evolve, but, really interested in kind of exploring this potential future where, Solana is this like cheap, fast chain and ETH is the kind of more expensive, but like high trust, high security chain, and just kind of like teasing out like what that could possibly mean. I'm seeing some emerging narratives that Solana is the consumer chain, whatever that means. But obviously we like consumers, so should probably jump into this. So like, Jess, what are you thinking about here?
I'm the consumer chain. It's that easy. You just claim it. Yeah, I mean, I think so. We had this debate. I think piece here, like, I think we're going to see a whole bunch of new L1s. It's going to be L1 season again, and I was like, I don't think that's going to happen in the same way it did in the last little while. And I think it's because like there are clearly a couple sort of winners that are floating above the fray, especially that's what a good bear market can do. And the smart people I talk to, I think people think that Seed Club's like an ETH maxi organization, and I get why people say that because it's like 98% of the stuff that we do. But we just want to do cool shit on the internet, and it just happens that until now, most of the infrastructure that we need to go do the types of things we need to go do or lives on Ethereum. But I think why people are interested in Solana is that it allows you to do things that you just can't do on Ethereum, right? It still costs, if you want to send 1 million or 100,000 NFTs to somebody, it's going to cost you a ton of ETH or OP or whatever, ETH on even an L2 at this point. And so there's just clearly things that are not feasible to do on that chain and that can be done on Solana, and people are willing to make that trade-off. And I think they've just been very good at building out these sort of network of hackathons and developer resources. And I think also we just need to remember the world is really big, and a couple dollars can be very cost prohibitive, especially at any scale. And so there's, I think, a lot of reasons to be pretty bullish about a type of technology can kind of enable things that you can't do in the ETH land or in other chains. So stoked that. Seems like there's a ton of energy there. I think the world's better when we have a bunch of different options and design choices. but I'm not a Solana guy. We have a couple of investments in Solana. We've been doing more infrastructure over there through ventures, and love it. But I just feel very underweight in holding Solana right now, and so I should probably just go buy some. Not at financial advice, obviously, and
it is
maybe a good reason to not buy it. I don't know. I'm not a good trader.
It is great though how I'm the same way, but seeing like an adjacent token pump a bit gives you some energy, even if it's not the core ecosystem that you're like deeply embedded in. I very much agree. I guess like the like iPhone Android kind of metaphor is like kind of tempting here, although not perfect. But I think where my head's currently at on it is like the products that want the prestige and like higher perceived value of like ETH assets built there, and products that I don't know want to go like mass market are like very transaction heavy, or like targeting less affluent demographics, I guess, like build on Solana. So I think we could see like ETH be kind of the like fine art, luxury collectibles, high value assets, I don't know, high security financial products like place, and then Sol be like, I don't know, hyper meme coin trading products, or like low cost collectibles, or gaming, or payments, or like these things that just benefit from kind of high transaction, low cost.
I mean, I think the reason why I was even saying like I'm bullish L1s is because I think it just kind of comes down to like settlement layers, and I think it is really interesting the kinds of people who coordinate and are like into Solana for whatever it is. There's like people who just like believe in it. And so for that reason alone, it'll be interesting to see the culture that like springs up around it. So
see, I think
I don't know. It's interesting.
I think that's the thing, right? Like it's like, I don't think the iPhone, Android, like this is not a good, I mean,
no, agreed. Yeah.
The iPhone version of it would be like a deeply integrated, fully like, maybe
which
that's
is actually Solana. It's
Solana,
more,
maybe,
more Solana
which
anyways,
I don't think they're doing. Yeah. But I think I don't know. There's some tweets going around talking about, like I think this Chainlink God probably tweeted today talking about the UX problem in Web3, right? It's the fact that you have to sort of choose the chain you're building on. Like nobody wants to choose whether they're hosting a website on AWS or they're hosting it in Google Cloud, right? No, consumers don't care, and so it should be that way in crypto and Web3. And I think that's just the wrong framing. I think really, blockchains are more like countries and identities than they are just pure tech stacks. And I don't know if that persists forever, but I think it's very clearly the case right now. And so you have a Ethereum type of guy, or Solana type of guy, or maybe a multi-chain type of guy, but there's like worldviews and identities and belief systems, and tokens really, accentuate that. Like, why are people excited about Solana? Because they got bags, right? They got bags. And that's like a thing that we just can't separate from any of this sort of stuff. So I think thinking about them as like, identities, cultures, subcultures, scenes that people are joining into is the right way to look at it. And that's the question, is like, okay, what is the scene that's being developed in Solana? And I don't know what that answer is right now. I think actually that's maybe, they're probably trying to shed some of what the meme coin, shitcoin, just copy paste DeFi sort of air that came out through the bull market. And I'm not sure what the next thing. I think you start to see some new utilities or things that can only be done on Solana. But I also think we just got, a lot of hype and attention around this event that's happening in a moment where there's thin liquidity and in both like the capital markets and in the attention markets. And that's what you get. So I don't know, it's still open question, but we're definitely, Solana is on the radar as a network that we think has probably warrants some of our attention.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and we actually just mentioned the tweet that is kind of core to our next topic. So let's just jump to chain abstraction. So it's interesting. So you think, I guess I think that's very, very much true for the people that are here. Like we're these, crypto obsessed, like very online people who have like taken the time to whatever form relationships and like digital identities within these worlds over long periods of time. But I guess I like find it hard to believe that the people who aren't already here are going to come and care to the same level that we do.
So the tweet that we're talking about is from Chainlink God, and it's the title is basically the existing user experience paradigm in Web3 is fundamentally broken for 99% of the population. Here's what needs to happen to scale. It's basically recommending, the ability to abstract away the chains, to pay any token, to remove that need to choose the chain that you're participating on. I don't know. I think it's almost like we need to look at it in different time frames. I think in a long enough time frame, yeah, it probably doesn't matter. But like core to the adoption of all these things is this sort of cult building. It's the culture around it, and the way that you represent that culture is sort of by buying and holding and whatever the core asset of this sort of subculture. And I think that is what drives adoption right now. And so I could say, yeah, at some point in the future when there's clear utility for all this stuff, but then you have to ask the question of like, what is, the core utility? And, I think for, and which is probably like, okay, I'm storing money, transferring value, or speculating and hopefully seeing value go up. I think we need to push beyond that for there to be, just the general non-speculative, non-culturally based users. And we have very limited versions of that right now. So, and I'm not sure it's UX that's stopping that. I mean, probably stops everything. So that's probably a dumb statement, but I don't know. It's hard for me to look at any asset that has a crypto asset has any value and not think about that as a social phenomenon more than a technological phenomenon. And
totally.
The argument here, it isn't super compelling to me.
What's missing here is like, yeah, when you're pitched on a new video streaming service, is your first question, does this run on GCP? Is there an AWS, or do they have the shows that I want to watch? And like, if I was invested in any of those three things, that might actually be important to me. And I feel like there probably is something really, really in the middle here when we're talking about like P2P network software where we like own the platforms that are serving the content as well. So it's like, it can't just be one or the other. It's like, you can't like show me a non-financial blockchain. Like, no, like I'm not going to even dare to imagine such a horrendous thing.
Peace in his fuck you pay me era.
Yeah. Well, and I don't even want it to be like just about that, but it's just like the real thing that makes it all move is economic energy. So.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think we're very much going to have both. Like I see it in myself now when I'm playing with new products that have whatever embedded wallets or abstracted wallets. It's like, once you're onboarded, you don't really care. You're just playing with the product. Obviously, when you're offboarding, you want it to go back to your home. But I kind of see us like, I think we're almost going to be in this world where we have, Jess, to your earlier point, we have our like home, like my like home is ETH. This is where my friends are and my relationships are and my assets are. And then you're going to kind of like, just like travel to these other experiences. And, that's also just going to be great. And if, we truly have chain abstraction and that just becomes very, very easy, then I think actually, yeah, maybe like the tribalism becomes stronger because you can just continue just purely kind of identifying with your home, and then traveling to other experiences just becomes very easy.
Yeah, I feel like a wet blanket here because I'm like imagining these are incredibly easy things to say and that the way it should be, but even in like, I'm pretty cheap when it comes to my swaps. Am I just gonna want to trust some random low liquidity like bridging pool that's gonna allow me to get like? I'm not like I want to manage my life a lot more than that. So I think it works definitely on like I can see the abstraction. I can see like if I'm jumping into a network and or there's a specific job to be done, like yes, just go do that and abstract that away. But I just think we're still so much in like these assets being memes more than utilities. And I guess I want both worlds to exist. I love the memes totally. And I love the utilities. And
I think it's just going to happen at the brand level largely, right? It's going to be like, the Seed Club token. People are going to come. They're going to come for Seed Club. We're going to, create a lot of culture within Seed Club.
Is an example of this. Like if you look at his tweet thread, like beyond basically this entire tweet thread is a support of why you should use Chainlink, right? So pumping his bags, and then every other tweet there is basically about how the price of Chainlink is going up and how it's going to go up. So it's like, yeah, okay, right? And also Chainlink is pretty much a meme coin. There's a lot of other things that you can do with it, but come on. It's not essential to this sort of stuff. And so I don't know. I think if we're building this space, I think we can lie to ourselves to think there are, and I don't mean that in a pejorative way. Like I think we need to be overly optimistic about how things might work out, but also we got to be trying to search for what is like the truth of a lot of this sort of stuff. And I think if we're honest about why there's value in these assets, it's because of belief in the future, not because of utility today. Like, you cannot push me off of that point of view. And
let's go. We're getting a live tweet.
Oh goodness.
Sorry, continue.
Yeah, I don't know. Just ranting some bullshit, so we can move on.
Talking
about my favorite topic. I've been subtweeting people today. I mean, I guess
let's get into this. And I do promise this will end up being crypto related, but we're going to talk about the all-in CEO search for a second. So if you haven't seen, and I really hope you haven't for your own well-being, but all-in's hiring a CEO, with the goal of, I guess, transforming, they're very popular and successful podcasts into, this big billion-dollar business with membership, events, products, services, whatever. I think, quickly moving past how cringe a bunch of this is. In peace, actually, if you open the link, go to like the third paragraph in the plan for all in section. There's a paragraph there that is just brutal.
We're just trashing people here today.
This one here.
Yeah, this one, it just kind of hurts to read. Like knowing who's at the helm at this thing, with an ethos of active discourse about the things that matter, living your best life, and enjoying friends, travel, and fun. We hope to make all members of the community feel like they're one of the besties.
I mean, somebody described the All In podcast as The View, but for dudes or for tech bros, and I was like, I love it, because I think The View, like, and I listen to it. Like, I'm a glutton for punishment. From walking the dog, I'll listen to it. But I mean, I think you put this topic on here more because, not because we're stands of this, and not because Jason has a horrific Twitter tweet today that I had to retweet and do a quote tweet. But there's something more here that I think is actually core to a lot of our thesis.
Let me set it up. So really, like, the easy thing for them to do here, right, would be to just like run ads, make millions, kind of call it a day. But not only, I mean, obviously they're very down and excited to be cult leaders, or increasingly cult leaders. But they're also just know that attention's everything, and ultimately by like serving it yourself, you can get many multiples on the value that you would get from selling ads. So this is kind of this like emerging playbook thing that we've started like really exploring and thinking a lot about, that we're calling attention networks. So Jess, do you want to jump into that?
Yeah, I think like if you think about like the best defining business theory of the last, say, 15 years, maybe a bit longer, I think Simon Thompson's aggregation theory really described like what was happening, the transformation of of business, basically, by these networks like Facebook and YouTube and Uber that were aggregating demand, and then by owning that demand and serving that demand, they're able to charge fees or earn a ton of money. And that was the race over the last 15 years. Can we go build these big networks that aggregate attention? I think what we're seeing now is that those are pretty entrenched, but we're seeing successful people who've been able to serve that attention within these networks, be able to build these big brands. And so we talk about Mr. Beast, and we can talk about All In and podcasting. We can talk about the Substack growth, etc. And what some of these people have been incredibly effective at doing is using these tools to go direct to fan and build these incredibly powerful brands in specific channels, across specific channels. And then what they're finding is that like the monetization models that they have available in those brands are actually pretty limited and limiting. So ads on YouTube, maybe some merch, etc. And so and also at a certain scale, it becomes hard to actually service that with in-game or within in-video ads like Mr. Beast. And so you're seeing these brands then be used, or attention sort of networks, so say, be used to sort of launch other brands that go on to be distributed in Walmart, or so we can think about Logan Paul and KSI and Prime. We can think about Mr. Beast and Feastables. All In Summit, or All In, is again a great example of this. It's very, very hard to get the hundreds of, or the millions. I don't even know how many millions they get, but they get their top 10 podcast, I think. Ton of downloads, ton of attention. The low-hanging fruit ways to sell ads, but being able to have bigger designs. I think lots of people are accusing these folks of wanting to set up their political careers in the future, right? Like the power of being able to use these networks to build this attention is just absolutely massive. I think it's what we see. I think a way to look at what we're doing at Seed Club. I think it's a way to look at what a Pudgy Penguin or a D-Gods is doing. It's I think what a lot of the teams in our network are ultimately doing in a weird way, I think it's kind of what draw tech is doing as well, just using a different social object to build that attention. So I think, we're obviously super interested in like how tokens interact in this world, but I think it's pretty clear to say there's this. I think people are still sleeping on this size and scale of this opportunity. Most of it will be framed around creators earning more, but I think it's a much bigger world than just creators. Though creators showcase the importance of personality, I think, in being able to actually connect and build these attentions. That's why Jason can tweet cringe things about crypto and pat himself on the back for being a boomer, and people love it.
Yeah, totally. I think attention is actually just getting like harder and harder to capture too, right? Like 10 years ago, you could just spend a bunch of money on Facebook ads. They would do the work of getting attention for you. No one really like asked any more of brands. They didn't really care that much about the brands they were buying from, and that was effective. And I think like increasingly that's just not true. Like you kind of need people with audiences and influence to kind of be directing attention, or like at the center of your thing. You need to occupy a lifestyle or like meaning space to really like resonate with consumers, and you need to be creating media and culture. And I think to your point, like why we're so interested in this, I mean broadly we just are, because it feels like the way that like brand and organizations on the internet are going. But I think we think that tokens potentially one day can be like the most efficient way to kind of like capture the belief and demand, to be a part of these worlds or networks or subcultures that are creating, and really put it to productive use. I think like a kind of like, test thing that I often use is just like, do you really think that like Mr. Beast is effectively capturing the demand to be a part of his world or brand through like selling chocolate bars? Like, of course he's not, right? The question is like, how much more, demand, like what, if Mr. Beast launched a token, like what would the market cap of that thing be? Who knows?
Chaos is what it would the market cap would be. Chaos.
Bigger than meme coin. So should All In launch a token or what?
I mean,
I mean, obviously not.
The All In NFT is something. I think an All In NFT would be great. That'd be like full circle. I mean, I think clearly no, right? Clearly the answer to that is no. And also I think like Mr. Beast is a challenging example, because I actually think the bigger opportunity isn't being like this sort of mass media market attention, but being a lot more niche. And there's like, and I think you can probably be there's a lot more room for people being niche than there will be for future Mr. Beast. And I think that's, the sense of being a part of something new and early as well. Also think that, I look at the crypto market as like a market to be served, not one to be bolstered by trying to get new, general consumers into it. So yes, All In should not launch a token, but if they launch an NFT, I would buy it.
Yeah, all credit to Jason here. He did say that my JPEGs are immutable and that they're cool and fun. So
that's a win.
As unlikable this post might be, and it's a win. I'll take what I can get here from @Jason.
Fresh copy pasta dropped in there too. So I was right, of course, but I give myself a little credit for it.
Yeah.
So good. That's so good.
Yeah, I love it.
I give myself a little credit for it.
So good. Retweeting again? Let's go.
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
Okay, cool. Let's move on. Let's jump to fundraising. So obviously a question, a thing we talk quite a bit about with, our teams, get a lot of questions about. Ben Lakoff shared this chart that Peace will pull up once he's done tweeting. Really just showing that, Q3 has had the lowest number of deals and total capital invested since Q4 of 2020 in crypto specifically. Jess, maybe just for the, the builders or founders in the audience who are actively fundraising, thinking about fundraising, just wondering the state of the market, figured it'd be helpful to just give our perspective on it or what we're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're into multiple months of it just being a very difficult market to fundraise in for most people. We're still seeing a bunch of deals getting done, but not with the same sort of consistency and urgency that those that raised in the bull market would notice. I think there's still this dynamic where we're still seeing a pretty strong valuations, I would say, still for early projects. We're seeing just a ton of money come in a bunch earlier, and firms that would maybe only lead in the past are participating at some of these lower valuations. But it seems to be sort of feast or famine. Like if there's something that sort of fits the current narrative, and as a team that can go build and execute themselves and has been able to make progress, that seems very, or has like a live product in the world, those deals are getting done pretty consistently. I think for folks that are maybe outside of that like obvious strike zone, it's becoming a little bit more difficult. And so, I think the mantra for entrepreneurs, for the last year or so, and probably for the next year or so, is you just got to do more with less, and figure out how you bring revenue in, and put products out there in the world that people are actually using, and then I think you should be pretty confident to be able to raise some money. But yeah, the urgency, I think, is the biggest shift. Mm-hmm. And as we spent a lot of time working with teams on how to go strategize around building momentum, figuring out how to create some urgency around a fundraise, and running that process. So with mixed success, right? So I guess it sort of speaks to the challenge of the market out there right now. I'm less worried about like the individual deals and volume and stuff that's happening there. And I think, we're still seeing a bunch of funds announce closing. I think, depending where you are in the world, that's been a more monumental task than in others. But there's monies around.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I've heard you say manufacture urgency many times in the last few weeks, which is right. Yeah. Anyways, let's move on. I think it's going to feel good to get through this list. So, first list complete. Jess, you want to, what was interesting about Aragon returning funds?
Well, so I think Aragon, DAO tooling project that raised something like 275,000 ETH back in 2018, I want to say. So a big ICO fundraise. And then really kind of fell out of favor. And I think many would accuse them of not being super effective at shipping something people want. And there's politics and founders leaving and all this sort of stuff. But maybe about a year ago, there started to be this renewed interest in almost like activist token holders saying, like, there's so much ETH stuck in this treasury. You're not spending it. You're not doing it. You should return it to token holders. And so, yeah, probably about a year ago, that was sort of a big topic. And I think just yesterday they announced the game plan for how they're moving forward. And there's a lot of debate around this, whether it's a great thing or a bad thing, a good, but basically what they're doing is returning a good chunk of the treasury. I think it's just north of 85,000 ETH that if you're an ANT token holder, you can redeem. There's a bunch of money, about $8 or $11 million still sitting in the association to deal with legal fees and wind down, et cetera. And then there's actually an undisclosed amount of capital going to the founding team or the core team to let Aragon to go and build products. So they haven't returned all the capital. And of course, that's, got people calling it a slow rug, or maybe they have always been calling it a slow rug, but now they've actually formally done it. They're saying that there's better ways to go do it, et cetera. I don't know. I'm not here to comment on that. I think it's interesting to see one activist sort of token holder funds come in and actually push for a result. I'm not sure it's a great result for them or not. I think it speaks to just like the challenges and open questions around these organizations. Again, for everybody involved, regulations that allow us to go and do these things in a regulated and effective way, I think are better. It will protect capital contributors, teams, et cetera. But I think there's just like a big premium that they need to set aside just for uncertainty around how to wind this thing down. Yeah, I would say people are not super stoked on it. I feel like nobody's happy, which might be the sweet spot here, given the fact that there's a bunch of competing demands. I just, it's one of these reminders of like ICOs, 2017, 2018 ICOs that have somehow managed to stay around are just rolling in the dough. There's just such an obscene amount of money locked into some of these contracts some places. And I think it's good that it's out of there, probably net beneficial to the community, but would have been better. I think we could have built a dope product there.
It is crazy when you scroll through, I don't know, just like the treasury values of some of these DAOs and protocols from that period, like insane. Yeah, definitely. I think if they're not making progress or like the thing isn't working, definitely better in in the hands of the people.
Yeah.
I've been kind of wondering when we would see, actually, like a question I've been wondering about is if we would see, or when we would see like a DAO acquisition, like if that's like a thing that, or like a DAO acquiring a DAO or something. I think, DAO is kind of like unwinding is another like just interesting thing to see. I think Nouns did it pretty elegantly. Like the fork seemed to go very smoothly. I think the community is much stronger now. Ultimately, I think both sides were pretty happy with how that went. So we have a good example, and yeah, maybe now we have a bad one.
Yeah, it's just messier. I think there is like this question that is yet to be answered yet, which is, like what is, the winding down. You're trying to sort of distribute network value back to people, and if it's being valued purely at the NAV of the assets being held here, or I guess maybe the question is like how do DAOs build value beyond just the assets they hold? And I feel like that's probably the most important question for folks to ask. Like, if you think about a Squiggle DAO, they hold all these NFTs. Should the value of those just be the current NAV or some discount to the current NAV due to illiquidity? Like in one world, yes, but then I think it's up to that team or to those builders of these DAOs to figure out how to embed a lot more value and interest there. And I'd say that's the same thing that sort of Aragon's gone through, right? Like if there was momentum and progress and people using these things, I think it would be a very different, they could sort of push your vision forward into a world where this is more valuable and there's value moving through it. I think it'd be interesting to see people's opinions of Tally versus the opinions of Aragon. And my gut would say that there's just a lot more happening on Tally, and therefore there's premium to be placed there versus here. But I don't know. I would expect to see like there being a lot more aggressive moves at going after these treasuries at a certain point. I just think that there's uncertainty in how you actually go do that effectively, and there isn't like a playbook yet.
Yeah, the leveraged DAO buyout. We haven't.
You just have to actually own something worth owning for, and there's a very few number of teams that have that. So
nice.
Good luck to all of them.
Pudgy penguins.
He's just going to say randomly going to say
just name an NFT project time. Welcome to our name an NFT project segment.
Well, no, I'm just saying that is one that was like acquired, right? It was one that where someone actually stepped up and said, "Hey, I'm going to be the CEO," and everyone who owned a little penguin was like, "Dude, thank you. We want to shop at Walmart."
Right, they paid like $3 million for it rather than the whatever the 30 million it wound up been worth before. So yeah,
fire sale.
But great move for sure.
Great move. All right, sick. Should we wind this thing down? I think our goal is to kind of keep it around 45 minutes and we're here. Anything to thoughts?
Are you laughing at something, Peace? I feel like.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. It's nothing.
Oh,
no,
we can't like.
We can't be doing that on Internet Explorer.
No, if you say it's nothing, it means it's obviously something. We can't.
Well, what do we have? We have 0x84 7BA7 asking the C Club when C Club is going to run the FWB acquisition. Chat. Albiverse confirming it is an important question indeed.
What?
It's out of our
token price. Yeah. What's that token price at right now? Like,
yeah, let's do some quick math.
I've been buying.
Really?
Yeah.
You've been buying what I've been selling? I haven't been.
You've been selling?
No, I haven't been selling. I don't. It's locked up somewhere.
I bought the dead one too. I bought 10,000 of the one that got scammed from Rally or whatever it was.
Oh yeah, jeez, that's a throwback.
I'm bullish abandoned tokens. I mean, they're like all abandoned, right? But it's my favorite form of a public good. My favorite form of a public good is a team who has.
Yeah, Pete, you have a lot of buying. You have a lot of buying to do.
I have a lot of buying to do. Well, you got to find the right ones. You got to find the right ones.
You don't issue a token; you set it free.
That's right. That's exactly
onto the blockchain.
Yes, exactly.
They've decentralized the garbage collector.
I would love for C Club to go acquire something that makes sense. I'd be so excited about that and like open to it. But we're just excited to be partners with FWB. We're talking about Fest again next year. It could be fun. I wish their council all the best. I'm not bullish councils. I feel I'm not bullish councils. Hopefully it works for them, but please,
whatever. It's a good next experiment for them to run, I guess. I don't know enough about it to.
I agree with that.
Enough about the structure to really comment on it, but
have I ever woken up and been like, I can't wait to go be on a council? The answer is no.
I haven't either.
No. But there's some cool people on that council. I like some people on that council.
Erickson.
Okay.
Shut up.
That dude, Erickson, he might even be here. He lobbied hard for my vote. And I was like, yeah, you got it. You got my vote just because you were the only one who asked for it. And that's how decentralized governance is supposed to work.
He deserves it. He's a mainstay of that community.
He really is. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to be back here with Internet Explorers every Friday at 10 a.m. You're here right now. You're brand new. You're the first ones. Like, exciting. Congratulations for being here. Thank you. This is going to be put out over a channel, so even if you miss it, you can catch it later. But you should probably be here because we'll do some fun things, and it's just going to evolve. Also, hopefully, can create a stage where, for those of you that are building fun stuff, that we can make sure you're hopefully on top or on the show with us here, so you can showcase what you're up to. Cheryl's putting together the Seed Club newsletter this week, and just tapping into like the dozens of incredible things that are happening in our network. We have things coming from hats, from jokes. We got teams, Refraction throwing parties. There's sorts of stuff happening. So if you're not on the newsletter yet, seedclub.xyz, click the subscribe button so you know about that and all future things. Yeah, I was trying to think mentally, what is my shill list today? I think that's most of it.
Yeah, tell us what you love. Tell us what you hated.
Yeah, this is more Jess. If you could just play to my ego here, that'd be great.
Say more Jess. I don't want to DM me.
I don't want to put my finger on the scales. I want honest takes here about how good job I did. As long as it's good or better.
I mean, that's what we're all here for, just to pump you up, make sure you continue feeling good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, my life has gotten meaningfully better by having a team that says yes. A team of yes people. Incredible.
It's exactly what we are.
Not remotely close. We got a little, I think we're minting this intro video on Zora. So if you haven't minted it yet, hop on over there. If you're listening to this on one of our other channels, it's live until November 10th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. It's pretty unhinged, so you should probably go mint that. But yeah, otherwise, next Friday, come hang out again.
Thanks for showing up.
Thanks, peace.
Beauty. Peace.
Bye, peace.